As much as I've loved having these headlights on this car, I think it's time for a change. They keep blowing out on me and I've had some issues with them. At first I really loved these lights because of their just uniqueness with the LEDs running across the whole thing instead of the one single bulb. So I thought that looked pretty cool, but I think it's time to go back to something a little more OEM looking, hoping it'll be an upgrade, hoping it won't keep blowing bulbs on me. Welcome back to the channel, folks. If you're new here, my name's Connor Lee. This is my 1988 Honda Prelude, and these headlights, I've gone through about 2.5 sets, I'll call it. The first one, one side went out on me, just blew, and not all of the LEDs were illuminating on it, so I had to replace that one. Then the other side went probably 6 months later, and then this side just went again on the passengers. So, you know, I think it's just time to try something else. These have been really cool, but I want to put something new on. If I go ahead and turn on the low beam, the driver's side is very dim, and this one right here is not even illuminating. When you're just using your low beams, the top line is supposed to be illuminated and this single one in the middle, but as you can tell, we're already missing one LED right there. And on the passenger side, it's even worse. I don't know if you can see that, they're kind of just flickering and they're very, very dim. This center one doesn't work at all. This one doesn't appear to work either. And it's just the two outers that are barely lit at the moment. Driving down the road, obviously I have borderline no low beams. Click on the high beams and they still work. The bulbs, I guess, are almost all lit. They're not, I mean, really it's supposed to be full spectrum here. So the tops are, everything's supposed to be the same brightness all the way across top to bottom. As you can tell, the bulbs that are usually the low beam are pretty dim right now. And on the passenger side, it's basically the same deal. For the past week, I've basically just been driving with my high beams on at nighttime and probably blinding everybody. So I've been waiting for the new headlights, the assemblies, as well as the new LED bulbs to get in, and I finally got them. So today we're gonna take out these old ones. I don't think I'll even save them because they're both kind of busted. The install is pretty simple. I'm gonna disconnect the battery. That's usually like a 10 mil, and then also you want to use a Phillips head to get basically the entire housing and headlight swapped, unless I'm forgetting something. It's been a minute since I've done this, but I'm pretty sure you could do it all with just a Phillips head screwdriver. So on my Prelude here, I believe it's a 14 millimeter. You may have different, links here, but mine's a 14 mil, so I'm gonna disconnect the negative on the battery, which, oh man, I need something to hold this side. Yeah, I don't think I can. Nope, I need something to hold that side. All right, got myself some grips here. I'm gonna try and just cinch that onto that side. Take my 14 mil and loosen that off. And that should be enough to get the negative side off here. There we go. Negative is off, and now we are safe to start working on the electronics on this car. If you've not taken off your Prelude headlights before, it's not too overly complicated. You've got a Phillips head screwdriver and a bunch of Phillips heads screws on the outside of the shroud here. So you're gonna start by just pulling these out. Make sure you don't lose them. With the 4 screws removed, this plastic shroud should pretty much just come off like that. Set it aside, and then you've got more Phillips head screws. For this next part, you want to remove this metal clip, this ring around the outside of the headlight. To do that, you've got a Phillips head there, a Phillips head there, and one more Phillips head down in the center underneath. So again, just be careful pulling these out. The screws kind of just get smaller and smaller as you go. Lots of potential for dropping. There's one little itty bitty screw. Now, with this last screw undone, this shroud will come off and the headlight will kind of just fall, so be careful with that. Now we can start looking at the connection, which, if I remember right, I've got this, which goes right into the headlight, and then I think I also have a reverse polarity harness somewhere in there that I might need to remove. So I'm just gonna start taking off this electrical tape, getting this thing unplugged, and see what I discover. Headlight is out. It's just a 3-prong connector on the back, much like an H4 bulb. With the old headlight removed, I think it's time to show you guys the new ones, which are in this box here, and these will be my new LEDs. In this box are the 2 new headlights for the Prelude. If I can pull it out here, looks like this. It's, you know, it's kind of a cheap headlight. It's supposed to be a projector, but once I got them in the mail, I realized it's not really a true projector. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's not really like the glass projector housing here just kind of floats above in front of the bulb, and then the rest of it is your typical reflective housing for a headlight. So not super impressed with these, but you know what, they're interchangeable, so if the bulbs go out, I can just put in a new bulb and I don't have to swap out this entire assembly. We'll just have to see once we install them how the beam is, the cutoff, and see how they look. They were cheap. These LEDs were pretty cheap, so you know, it's gonna get me back on the road with proper working low and high beams, I'm hoping. As for the headlights, you've got obviously the front housing. This actually does appear to be glass, which is pretty nice. They are usually swapping these out for plastic. I can't really tell, but I don't know, it feels like glass. And then the back here has this rubber encasing on it. And then you've got your clip to hold your H4 or 9005 bulb, I believe. And then they come with this little cap in here that you have to remove. And then basically the new bulb will sit in there. This will cover all of it. And I might have to MacGyver something here to make sure it actually seats properly and doesn't allow moisture into the inside of the headlight. And we can also take a look at these LEDs. I think what I'm gonna do is try and plug them in first just to check polarity in the connection and make sure they're working. But these are H4, or I'm sorry, 9003 style bulbs. They're a low and high beam bulb all in one. You've got kind of the same connector as the old ones for the plug-in there. So everything should be fairly plug and play. I'm not sure if I'm gonna need the reverse polarity connector that I have on it now that I needed for the old headlights. I'm not sure if I'll need it for the new ones. So I'm gonna leave it as is for now, plug these in and see what happens. Take our bulb, and as you can tell, 3-prong. We've got 2 on the outside, 1 up top, 2 on the outside, 1 up top. So we're just gonna plug that in right there, and that should be fully functioning now. Let's go ahead and put the negative terminal back on the battery real quick and just fire this up and see what actually happens. Good deal. So that's the low beam, or at least it should be. Seems to be working all right. I'm gonna go ahead and try the high beam. I suppose that's brighter. So I think the bulb is actually working with the reverse polarity connector already in it, so I might just leave that as is. Put the bulb inside the new housing, see how it looks, but so far so good. So to install this bulb, we're gonna take off this back rubber casing here. We're gonna take this clip and pull it up like that. And then we're gonna take our bulb here, which should only fit in one way. I believe it is like so. So you have a notch up top for that upper pin, a lower pin here, and another pin here. So it kind of locks itself into place. It'd probably help though if I put it in the right way. It's supposed to go like this. Wouldn't do me much good with the bulb facing inside the car. So anyways, that's the proper way. Same deal, you have 1 tab up top, tab here, and they sit in place like that. And then you take your clip, which is a little bit tougher to fit around the LED bulb because the housing is just a hair bigger, but you're gonna fit it around it, and then you're gonna cinch this thing up underneath and under this tab here. Okay, and then you should kind of just feel this tab click into place, and now the bulb isn't going anywhere, and that's all set. And then we can take this rubber cap and we're gonna put it up and over the bulb. You can see right off the bat that it doesn't really fit these pins too well, so I might have to, like I said, MacGyver a way to get this to, I might have to cut it open a little bit wider and then get it to seal on there, but that is probably gonna take some work. I kind of inverted this portion of it, so instead of it pointing inwards, I pulled it outwards like that to hopefully reach around the connector. That's going to be a tight fit, but if it works, it'll be a tight seal as well. So what I need to do now is try and get this plugged into the harness on the car and see what this seal looks like. Hopefully it's fairly watertight. So we've got our new housing here with our LED inside. I'm going to try and figure out how to put this on. I think potentially the easiest way might be to first slide it over this connector here, maybe something like that, so at least now the connector is inside of this rubber casing. Let's go ahead and try and plug it in here, and then somehow I need to, with it plugged in, seat this back over it, which, like I said, is going to be really tight. I might have to widen that hole on this rubber grommet. The rubber's up and over the headlight housing, which is good. It's also a little bit over that connector, but because this connector is rigid and not round, there's gaps here on either side. So water could potentially get inside. I think what the next plan would be to do is wrap it up with electrical tape. I'll probably start kind of right over the end of the rubber here and go up this wire harness just a little bit to try and keep water from getting in there. I've read online that these headlights might be bad for having water get into the backside, so I'm going to try and do my best to alleviate that before it becomes a problem. But this is pretty much almost ready to be back installed fully, and I'll grab some electrical tape, tidy this up back here, and then we'll get this housing put into the actual pop-up headlight system on the Prelude. Here's our first look at the side-by-side. Turned off, here's the old one, here's the new one. I am pretty stoked on how the new one looks just because it looks so much more OEM, and I'm a big fan of OEM Plus. And so what we've done here is added an OEM looking headlight, but plus meaning we've added a little kind of half-ass projector on it as well as an LED bulb in there. So I think the time has come to pop on the negative back on the battery and turn it on and get a nice side-by-side of the light pattern. And there we are. This looks really freaking bright, man. I think the high beams might be on. Let's try that. That's a little bit better. Yeah, so our low beam before, not working at all. This one, definitely working. It's very bright, and I'm not sure if this little projector is really doing its job or if it's more so the reflective housing in the back. Right off the rip, I'll give these bulbs a nice probably 8 out of 10 because the color temp is on point and they definitely seem bright. The headlights, I mean, I have to drive at night and see what the beam pattern looks like, but right off the rip, I'm thinking they're earning themselves like a nice 6 out of 10. I'm gonna go ahead and get this other side installed and be done with these headlights. I noticed that the high beam, I'm not sure if it still needs the reverse polarity. I noticed that when I have the new one installed and the old one installed, when I turn on the high beam is on this one, but this one is on low beam. And then when I flick it again to go back to low beams, this one's on high beam, that one's on low beam. Might be a reverse polarity issue. The other issue I have is when I hit my high beams inside that little blue high beam light on your gauge cluster, mine doesn't light up ever. And I thought it was just because of the LEDs here. It might still be because of the LEDs, but I'm hoping that when I put the new one in on this side, it will kind of create a full circuit with the new headlights and will hopefully have my high beam little light on my cluster work again, because, you know, that would be nice. It's nice to know when your high beams are on. So with that being said, time to take this one apart, put the new one in, and I'll catch up with you guys once it's all said and done. And now we've got both sides done. Both new headlights are in with the new LED bulbs, which actually I've driven it at nighttime now, look pretty dang good. The color temperature is on point. As far as the actual headlight assemblies, leaves a little bit left to be desired. I mean, for the cost, it wasn't too bad, but a little bit of a letdown on these kind of half projectors, half reflector housings. You know, for the price, you get what you pay for. I'm not too bummed about it, but definitely leaves a little bit to be desired. Here you can kind of see how it's not really a full projector. It kind of just protrudes out from the housing, and it's like this half moon shaped piece of glass that acts as the projector. And you can see the LED bulb inside there. I think it's better than my old ones just because they work, and now if the bulbs go out, I can just replace the bulbs and I don't have to replace this entire assembly, but you know, it is what it is. If you guys are interested in picking up either these LEDs or these headlight housings, I'll leave a link down below in the description to these and you can check them out for yourself. Yeah, let me show you guys real quick what they look like all lit up. So here I'll go ahead and just turn on fog lights, daytime runnings, and now we've got our headlights. And this is going to be the low beam, pretty bright. As you can see, the color temperature is pretty white, which is what I was going for. I think these are 6,000 Kelvin, so that's what you're looking at. And we can flick on the high beams right there. Now we've got high beams. The issue is my bulb inside still doesn't illuminate, letting me know the high beams are on. So I'm wondering if my bulb behind my gauge cluster for the high beam warning indicator is out. I might need to replace it, but here we are. We've got working low and high beams for the 3rd gen Honda Prelude once again. I'm a huge fan of the colorways on this car with the blue paint, the OEM yellow JDM looking fog lights, the orange amber reflectors or turn signals if you will, and then now we've got these really nice 6,000 Kelvin white colored LEDs for the low and high beams, and just makes a really nice looking contrast up front. I think it looks really mean coming down the road. I really love it. In order to put these headlights on, I decided to remove the old wiring harness that I have for the other headlights, because what that did was reverse the polarity. And so when I installed these ones, I think it was just backwards, where even though my indicator light on my dash doesn't work, I believe the high beams were coming on when the low beams were supposed to be on and vice versa. So I ended up taking that off and just using the OEM connectors on the Prelude, which is nice because less wiring makes me a happy camper. And they work just fine. So far so good. I've been driving with them for about 2 nights now and I've had no issues. The visibility is pretty good. I would say the LED bulbs are definitely doing their job. They're bright enough. It's the housings that are lacking a little bit. I would say this is a solid upgrade if you're just coming from like an OEM housing on your Prelude, but if you are looking to spend a little extra, there's definitely some nicer end projectors and LEDs out there for this car. So wanted to show you guys a cheap little route that you can take to get some nice LEDs with a projector headlight assembly, and that's what it looks like. If you guys enjoyed this one, make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions on your install if you end up doing this. And again, links down below to the 2 products that I used today, the LEDs and the new housings for the Prelude. If you want to check them out, try them out for yourself. They'll be in the description. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up if you got anything out of this video and enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Adios. Keep elevating. Bye.